So now that we see the relationship of marginal revenue and price in the monopoly scenario, we can figure out profit maximization. So again, in perfect competition, the rule was to produce as long as price was greater than marginal costs. And stop when they're equal. And don't produce any units with price less than marginal costs. But all that was because price and marginal revenue were the same thing. Right, so really to profit maximize in any situation, we want to produce as long as marginal revenue is greater than marginal costs. So this doesn't apply only to perfect competition. And I realize I'm crossing out, but you can still read it because so we want to produce as long as marginal revenue is greater than marginal costs, stop when they're equal, and don't produce if marginal revenue is less than marginal cost. Okay, so that is, we're just restating what we said before or clarifying that, the reason we looked at price and marginal cost were being equal was because in perfect competition, price and marginal revenue are the same thing. But all along, what we want in order to profit maximize is we want to look for, to maximize profit, we want marginal revenue greater than or equal to marginal cost. And in perfect competition, we could just say price instead of marginal revenue. Now that we're in a monopoly situation, we need to specify that we're talking about marginal revenue. So what does that look like? I'm going to do a couple of examples here, I hope. Well, this is price, or really any kind of dollar amount. So we have marginal cost, average cost. The monopoly is a firm that has to produce and is going to have the same kind of cost structure as a competitive firm. What's different is that instead of that constant price or marginal revenue being a horizontal line coming in here, they have the demand curve, a market demand, and then marginal revenue is below that. Well, it didn't necessarily mean for all that stuff to intersect, but that's how I sketch it out. So the marginal revenue at any quantity, marginal revenue is less than the price. So we can see that, right? It's below, the demand curve. The demand curve is the price and quantity demanded, and this is marginal revenue. So every marginal revenue is underneath demand, a lower number than the price for all the quantities. So where do they produce? They're going to produce where marginal revenue and marginal costs are equal, which is here. Now, what price do they charge? So this is their Q star. What price do they charge? We're going to go up to the demand curve and find the price that corresponds to that quantity. So they're not charging that right where they are, right? They would be cheating themselves. At this low price, demand would be really big, and they want to charge the most they can. That's what the demand curve shows us, how much people are willing to pay for that Q star, and it's up there at P star. So our profit maximizing quantity occurs where marginal revenue and marginal costs are equal. Our price comes from the demand curve at that quantity. And what else can we see? Well, if we compare it to a competitive situation, in competition, our quantity would be here. Because the marginal cost curve is this, the supply curve and marginal cost curve are the same. So our cost would be here and our price would be here. So compared to competition, in monopoly, we have a lower quantity and a higher price, and that's very characteristic. In order to get the high price, they need to restrict quantity, so we have less quantity and higher price. that's what is profit maximizing to them. We can see how much their profit is. So we have profit is a total revenue, price times quantity, so this purple box, minus total cost, which is average cost times quantity. It happens to be here. So their profit is this box. Monopolies tend to earn profit. I mean, it's not guaranteed just because they're the only firm in the market. You know, if you have a monopoly of something that nobody wants, your demand curve is really way down there, it's not going to work. But they can earn profit. We know in competition what happens when we have economic profit. Firms will enter. And so eventually there won't be any more economic profit, there'll just be normal profit. Profits can persist in monopoly. They're earning that great chunk of profit and nobody can come in to compete. They want to, they would like to, this is a profitable, attractive market. But because there's some kind of barrier to entry, that means that the firm is the only one in that market, they can't. And if there was no barrier to entry, if you invented a new product and you were the only one selling it, you know, you could have that monopoly briefly, but other firms, if they can enter, they will enter, and they will, you'd find yourself in a competitive market. Let me also do a problem with numbers. This will be kind of a long video, but hopefully it'll work. So I'm going to use the same numbers that I had before. And we need to compare marginal revenue to marginal cost. So we're going to need the cost curve. So our total cost corresponding to the quantity here is 1, 3, 7, 13, 21, and 31. And from this we calculate marginal cost, the change in cost, so we don't have anything here. That was our fixed cost. To produce the first unit costs 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. So what is our profit maximizing quantity here? Well, we compare for the first unit. Our revenue is 8 and cost is 2, so we want to produce that unit. For the second one, marginal revenue, marginal cost are equal, so that's fine. And we don't want this one. It wouldn't increase our revenue, and it would cost $6 to make it. So that would detract from profit. So our Q star is 2. Our price for those 2 units should be 6. Our profit is going to be 12 minus 7, or 5. So that's how to solve the monopoly problem with a table of numbers instead of a graph.